Hey, what's going on, everyone? So, let me get this thing adjusted here. Okay, cool. So, I'll give it a little bit of time and let's see. I'm going to share this to my private group as well. Just going to give it a minute or so and then I'll begin the live today. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Okay, cool. Perfect. Okay. All right, guys. So, last live for the year. Today I'm going to be covering if anyone is interested in kind of seeking out professional help for their health and how to go about and what criteria to look for with coaching or health professionals in general. Because it is quite difficult to find really good health professionals that moreover care as well, but then also are competent, right? So I go by the saying, like, I don't care about how much you know until I know about how much you care first. And then obviously their competency in that field is important to consider as well. So I've been doing coaching. I've honestly been in the health field for about like 39 years already from start to finish. So it's been quite a long time. I've initially got introduced to kind of quote unquote holistic health through biodynamic farming through my grandmother that lived off grid. And then, my dad got me into the gym at a very young age. And honestly, it's just something like I just really enjoyed without having to kind of find my motivation to go do it. It's actually one of the few things in life outside of like reading books and stuff of that sort that I never had to motivate myself to do. So kind of lucky enough to find that like at a really young age and then just have that as kind of an anchor or pillar to kind of lean on and stuff of that sort. So, and then professionally, I've obviously been coaching for 20 years at this point, so pretty close to 20 years, kind of like a certified nutritionist, lifestyle coach, a certified personal trainer as well, and stuff of that sort. So, so here are the criteria like I would look for if I was hiring someone, and I've hired like many mentors myself in various aspects of health. And so let's go through the list. So I have 8 bulletin points here that we'll be covering today. And obviously there are more than 8. Brian, what's going on? Good to see you. And obviously there are more than 8 bulletin points. But these are just the key ones that you can look for when you're seeking out help, because New Year's resolution is coming around the corner. And obviously a lot of people are going to seek out a lot of coaching online or in person, or go seek out medical advice for various health issues and stuff of that sort. And most of the time, it's not going to go anywhere because most people in any field are just very incompetent and oftentimes get into it for the wrong reasons as well. So their heart isn't into it as well. And I feel it has even a more detrimental effect within the health fields because oftentimes people are coming into like an illness, whether mental or physical, and it's really lowering the quality of their life. So it's important to be present to the person and be very caring on top of knowing what you're doing to get a person from, a state of mental and physical pathology to just normal health, etc. So first and foremost, when you reach out for help in your health issues or your health journey, I think what's most important, and it's really telling if a person is even worth the effort. Gilbert Renner, good to see you. I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly. Good to see you guys. I see a bunch of other people jumped in. So when you hire someone, whether it be like a doctor or a personal trainer, et cetera, for the New Year's, the first and most important thing to tell if they're competent or have or care at all is if they're giving detailed assessments when they first meet you. And this is so critical. So I'm going to try to interact with some of the people that dropped in. So Gilbert is asking any recommendations if your work is more on physical work. Yeah, Gilbert, I'm going to cover actually a lot of that right here, and that's going to be covered in the first bulletin point right here. So when you reach out, like for example, Gilbert may be suggesting like physical therapy or like a personal trainer. So let's say you go hire a personal trainer in person, which a lot of people think are like the gold standard. But really, in-person coaching for the most part in the industry is kind of like a starter position. And it has like a very low barrier to entry. So pretty much anyone, literally anyone can become a in-person personal trainer. Anyone. You could even go look it up online right now. If you don't believe me, just go Google how to become a personal trainer and you'll see that you don't even need any credentials. You don't need any certifications. You can get them, of course, if you want. And if you start off as an in-person trainer, kind of working at a gym, they may require it or may even just go through their program, which is usually like a weekend course and stuff of that sort. But nothing is required to be an in-person trainer. And anyone can kind of call themselves an in-person trainer. All it requires you to do is just purchase fitness insurance, which is about like $250 a year, and get a CPR certification, which you can do online in like 2 hours or just some kind of like 1 day or half a day course. And that's it. You're a personal trainer. And that's literally it. I know it's shocking because for physical therapy to kind of work with clients with bands and stuff of that sort, you need to basically get a PhD, which requires many, many years of schooling. But to coach people through very vigorous, intense training, you literally don't need anything. And it's weird, I know, but just so you know what you're getting into. And a lot of times, even when people have a lot of certifications and credentials, just go ahead and go look up that specific certification and just Google it and see what's required to get it. You'll see that there are no credentials to get pretty much any of them. And you could do it yourself, even if, like, let's say you're a computer programmer and you want to get one of these certifications, you easily can. They're fairly inexpensive for the most part, and they're most always done online as well. And it's very easy. The testing is quite easy, honestly, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't require much. So again, people think like in-person training is really the gold standard, but it's like a starter position. And there are amazing in-person coaches that are even way better than me, right? But these in-person coaches really don't like coach you, they don't sit there and count your reps and talk with you in between sets. They do amazing assessments and they are masters at what they do, and they are masters at determining which level your problems lie on and then creating reasonable solutions given your circumstance on how to solve those problems. So, is your excess weight gain due to a spiritual issue or emotional issue? Or is it at the thinking dimension, or is it at the physical dimension? Or is it just lack of education? Like you don't know how to build out workout programs or nutrition programs to get to your goal, or how to take the right supplements or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. So a good coach will determine which level the problem is at for a specific person. And most of the time it's at multiple levels, and then kind of how to tackle those problems in a reasonable way, and also how to simplify the journey for the person. I feel mastery is a lot of times when you hear a person being very elaborate and using a lot of word salads in their descriptions, it's oftentimes just to kind of confuse the audience and to make them look more competent and kind of guru-ish than they really are. If they're a really good practitioner, they'll explain things in very simple language to you that even an 11-year-old child can understand. If they're a master, they'll be able to take something in quantum physics, for example, and explain it to a person, to an 11-year-old child, and that 11-year-old child will be able to understand what's going on. That is true mastery, being able to break things down and have a person that's not even familiar with that field all of a sudden understand what you're talking about, and more importantly, have a reasonable solution to their issue, whatever that health issue may be. So first and foremost, when you reach out to a person, if they're not providing like a 2 or 3 hour assessment upon first meeting you, I would never hire this person. I would walk away immediately, no matter how popular they seem or how many followers they have or how booked they are. Trust me, this is not a competent individual, or maybe they are competent, but they're just running like a kind of revolving door mill of clients and needing to get people in there, charge them as much as possible and get them the fuck out. But the point is, these assessments are where you really get to know the individual. You get to know their goals, their limitations, And everyone is different. So again, I say this many times, but it's so important. Nature is a novelty generator. So everyone is going to be different. Their starting places are going to be different. And just to give you an idea, let's say we have two subjects, right? Both are males. Let's say both are 40 years old. 40-year-old white males, twins, okay? And they need to each lose 30 pounds. And their goal is to lose weight too, to lose those excess 30 pounds. So on the surface, it looks like these two people can be on the same exact program and they'll be fine. But it's furthest from the truth. So let's say subject one for sure needs to lose 30 pounds. But once you kind of interview them, you learn that, and again, these interviews take like 2 to 3 hours. So for example, a bare minimum, like for example, I hired Stuart McGill at one point to learn about his assessments of low back pathologies. And he would spend at least 3 hours just assessing the lower back. Okay. Paul Chek's assessment, which I had a great opportunity to take many of his courses as well, can last multiple hours and come in waves. So initially you would assess maybe 3 to 4 hours, and then a few months later assess another hour, and then a few months later assess another hour. These assessments are critical. Again, if like a trainer is just coming in, you're coming in there, they do a quick chat with you, they have you sign a waiver, and all of a sudden off to the gym you go. That's it. You got to cut it off. It's no good. I would never hire this type of person. But back to these two subjects. Let's say we have two white males to give you an idea of why these assessments are so important. Two white males, they both need to lose 30 pounds. So on the surface, it looks like they need to be on the same program. Okay, they need to be on a fat loss program that will allow them to lose 30 pounds. But let's look a little bit deeper. All right. So let's say, like initially upon meeting a client, I would do like an hour consult call, which I usually offer for free, just to get to know exactly what they're trying to achieve, their lifestyle, and their level of commitment, and their past medical history to their goals, et cetera, et cetera. So subject one, he needs to lose 30 pounds, but upon interviewing him, you find out that he's gained those 30 pounds because he's basically stress eating, okay? So if we didn't discover this and we just threw him into a workout and nutrition program, maybe it would have resulted in short-term success. He would have lost 30 pounds. But because you didn't meet the problem at the level of the problem, in this case, subject one's problem is a stressful job that's resulting in the formation of maladaptive behavior, that's resulting in this case of him stress eating, the weight will come back. And if you look at relapse rates of weight loss programs that tackle the weight loss from a symptom management of I need to work out more and I need to eat better or I need to take fat loss medical drugs like Ozempic, you do a 2-year follow-up on these people and you will see there is a 95+% relapse rate, meaning 95% of people that lose their weight end up regaining it within 2 years. And I would even argue that if you follow up with these people within 5 to 10 years, you will see it's pretty much literally 100%. And that's because they're not meeting the problem at the level of the problem. And there is an education issue too, but most people's problems are not at the I'm not eating well enough and working out enough dimension. That is moreover of a symptom, okay? And a lot of times, again, if you approach your health problems through a symptom management program, managing symptoms only yields more symptoms over time because it never meets the problem at the level of the problem. And then let's say subject two, we find out that he actually just is very motivated, is already spending a lot of time, reading books, working out, reading books on nutrition, working out, etc. But he just doesn't know how to put things together in a concrete, comprehensive plan. So his problem is an education problem. He really gained those 30 pounds and he can't lose it because he has the intention and motivation and doesn't have a lifestyle that leads to various maladaptive behavior. He just literally doesn't know what to do. So in that case, the problem is at the education issue. Okay, so they would need to be educated on, how to eat properly for fat loss, how to structure their calories for their specific type, how to structure their macros, how to source those macros appropriately, and then maybe also educate them on digestive health, et cetera, and how to set up a proper periodized workout program that incentivizes biological resilience and progressive overload, So, okay, so that's very important. And obviously, how are you going to get that information if you do a quick 5-minute Q&A with the person, have them sign a waiver, and then off to the workouts they go. So first and foremost, again, whether you're hiring a personal trainer, whether you're hiring, like a doctor or whatever, I personally, if they're not talking to you for a minimum of 2 to 3 hours upon first meeting you, huge, 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 huge red flag, massive red flag. And I would not hire this person. As annoying as it may be, having to look for someone else, it's going to be a huge waste of time and money for you in pretty much all situations from my experience, okay? So that assessment is a key, super important. And usually even for healthy individuals, again, it takes about like 2 to 3 hours. So for me personally, like what I do is an hour consult. So I sit down and talk to the person thoroughly for about an hour. Sometimes it takes an hour and a half. Sometimes, although it's a little bit more rare, it takes 2 hours if the person has various complicated health issues. I have sometimes people coming in with like on 15 or 20 different medical drugs, already in their 50s and 60s. So after that, then there needs to be a lifestyle assessment, okay, which takes into consideration their metabolic health, hormonal health, digestive health, etc., etc. And then there also needs to be a mechanical assessment as well, so you can see the person's movement competency, how well they move, if they have any pain issues. So for example, here with the two subjects, let's say subject one, let's say even with the two subjects, they both have lower back pain, which is very common in a lot of people. But let's say subject one, so they look almost the same. They look almost the same, right? You have two twins, both 40 years old, both 30 pounds overweight, both have low back pain. So you think for sure they need to be on the same program. There's no doubt in my mind, but not the case at all. So again, we found out that the reason for subjects one, excess weight gain, is a stressful job. The reason for subjects two, excess weight gain, is just lack of education. Now we find out that the reason for the low back pain for subject one is he has a posterior lateral disc herniation to the left side on the L5 and S1 region that's causing some minor radiating sciatica down his butt and his hamstring and into his toe. But on subject two, we find out, he has a anterior, so it's protruding inward disc herniation towards the right side of the L4, L5. Okay, so their approaches to their back issues are even going to be completely different because the injury is at a different level of the spine. So there are like 5 intervertebral discs in the lower back. One of them has an injury on the posterior of the L5, S1. One of them has the injury on the anterior, protrusion on the anterior on the L4, L5. So you can kind of see these details are so important, okay, on so many levels. And obviously, if, again, you get a trainer that's like, has a sign a waiver and then he's talking to you while you're on the treadmill getting warmed up about what you're trying to achieve, you got to run away. Trust me, save your money and time. Same with the doctor. If you show up to their medical office and it's their first time seeing you and they chat with you for like 5 minutes and you've had depression for like 10 years or whatever, health issue, ABC, for like chronic health issue for like 10 years, dude, that's not how it's supposed to be done. Of course, you come in with like a paper cut. That's like different, but outside of that, with especially chronic health issues, there are a myriad of behavioral variables you need to take into consideration, consideration at the thinking dimension, emotional dimension, spiritual dimension, physical dimension. And there are many systems in the human body as well. And the human body is a system of systems that all work together. So no one system is more important than the other, just like you can't continue to live without your cardiovascular system, or you can't continue to live without your central nervous system. You know what I mean? Every system is important and they all interact with one another. They should not be, in my opinion, seen as individual systems. Okay, they're all just one system. So obviously, as one begins to become unhealthy or dysfunctional, it has a dragging down effect on the entire system as a whole. All right. So, and all of these assessments will determine what is going on in the grand scheme of things, and how many, maybe one professional, or how many professionals you need to help you with your goals. You may need many, all at the same time, most often too. So that's one. assessments. If they're not offering those thorough assessments, you got to bail. It's annoying, I know, and it's going to be super rare that you find actually a person that does that. But if you do, I would highly, highly recommend keeping this person and treating them very well, because you're not going to find that person. You might find one or two other practitioners like that your whole entire life, because it's so rare, especially in the very rushed medical sector these days. I mean, the average doctor is seeing like 20, 30 people a day. I honestly don't even know how they remember your name oftentimes. But there are some amazing ones, okay? But they need to be offering these assessments. Okay, number 2. Once the assessment is done, they need to provide, like with personal training, for example, they need to provide very clear objectives and a very clear roadmap of where you guys are at now and where you need to be, and short-term, like weekly goals that need to be accomplished, monthly goals that need to be accomplished, and then your end goal, and have it all be objectively tracked and measured. If you're showing up to, so they ideally need to be printing out detailed workout programs, like what you need to do every day. Let's say you're training 4 days of the week, what you need to do each one of those 4 days, how many sets, reps, rest intervals, tempos, et cetera, et cetera. Each one of those 4 days, how your nutrition approach needs to look, how your lifestyle needs to look. I spend a lot of time building out an ideal schedule with my clients as well, showing them like, hey, looking at your schedule here, the ideal time for you to work out is going to be here. The ideal time for you to eat is going to be here. The ideal time to sleep is going to be here and here. This all needs to be very, very clear and written out. If you're showing up to a training session with an in-person coach and they're like, well, what do you want to do today? Or they're just winging it and just making stuff up, not writing anything down anywhere, typically training like 2 to 3 people at one time, that's incompetency, because if you don't plan, you plan to fail, okay? And I know they may be cool and they may be possibly fit themselves, but this is not how good quality coaching looks like. It's actually extremely poor quality coaching, with no direction, nothing. And basically the person is, for the most part, just like a rent-a-friend. They chat with you about random stuff in between sets. They maybe spot you, et cetera, and that's it. And you're paying probably like $100 an hour for that. And I just don't think it's worth it, unless you're okay with having like a rent-a-friend and that is what you're looking for. Then okay, do it. But the results need to be there. That's what you're paying money for. Okay, so clear, objective roadmap, that's able to be measured and tracked. This is super important, because you need clarity in your goals. It can't be like very vague. It can't be like, I need to lose 30 pounds or I need to lose weight, right? Let's like say, oh, I need to lose weight. Okay, how much weight do you need to lose? Well, 30 pounds. Okay, so how long will that take? Well, you could easily lose, even on whatever program, 1.2 pounds per week, or 1.5 pounds per week. Then okay, then you divide that by the amount of months, and then let's say, okay, for 30 pounds, that'll take about 4 months for you to accomplish. You need to lose this amount per week, roughly this amount per day for a weekly average. And you need to do this, this, and this, and this exactly, and your schedule needs to look exactly like this, like exactly like that, and that precision is what's going to determine your success, that precision and clarity. Lack of clarity and more vagueness in your goals, you will likely not succeed. Trust me, and I've been doing this for about 20 years already. That being extremely clear on your objectives is extremely, extremely important, and having a good roadmap of what to do weekly, monthly, etc. And if these aren't present, you are literally showing up and they're telling you like, oh, what do you want to train today? Or, oh, what did we hit last time? You got to run away, okay? Because you literally just have a rent-a-friend. You do not have a coach. Okay, so that kind of covers number 3 as well. And, okay, so number 4. Yeah, number 4 is a big one too. A lot of people, especially with in-person coaching, hire a person that looks fit themselves, and or has like a big following, maybe online or something of that sort. And most always, this is misleading as well, because for example, with the large following online, right? So a lot of people just go off their looks. They're like, oh, this person is really fit, so they must know what they're doing. They may know what they're doing for themselves. And most of the time, if they're like a very popular online personality, they're most likely also using a lot of anabolics, a lot of drugs to get them to look that way, surgery, a lot of Photoshop, etc., etc. And I would just suggest you go to any of these fitness events that these people go to, and you will see a lot of them look nothing like that in person either, okay? Most always, oftentimes, much worse. So there's a lot of deception from that vantage point. But more importantly, it's like when you're hiring a person to achieve some kind of health goal yourself, what's more important to look for is where are all of their testimonials? So if they have like a large following and they're saying they're like an international trainer and they're so good and have transformed hundreds of thousands of lives, and you look at their page and it's nothing but pictures of themselves and no testimonials, or oftentimes maybe a sprinkle of testimonials that just look okay. And you think like, okay, so you got 100,000, you say you've transformed thousands of people's lives. Like, where are these testimonials? Like, where are they? Et cetera, et cetera. So that's really the most important thing to look for, more so, I would say, than credentials, more so than a following, more so than how the person looks, if they're fit, et cetera, et cetera. Cumulatively, if they have all that, that's great. But the main thing is, like, if you're looking to hire a person for a specific health issue that you're having, where are all these successful testimonials of people solving that health issue with this person if they're claiming they transformed thousands of people's lives and are doing this for many, many years? So that's the main thing. Like, where are these successful clients, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. Another thing to consider, and these are kind of a little bit out of order. None of them are more important than any other one. It's just some things to take into consideration. Okay. So one thing is sometimes people will seek out group training, and group training is great in the sense from like a social aspect. It's great, right? You get to maybe meet some new friends, network. Also, just being in a room, working out with other people with more intensity is great. But again, you got to consider, like, is this really meeting the problem at the level of the problem? And are these group training sessions really taking my individual health circumstances into consideration? So remember the two subjects above. Subject one, they're both twins, 40-year-old white males, both 30 pounds overweight and both with lower back issues. But their programs would be completely different. Although on the surface they look exactly the same. But in the group setting, they'll throw them all into pretty much the same program with maybe some housewife, with some old granny, and with two high school athletes as well, So you got to ask yourself, like, am I really meeting the problem at the level of the problem? And oftentimes these group training sessions incentivize like hardcore beatdown, high intensity training type of workouts, which most people's central nervous system will never be able to handle, because remember, like, working out takes energy. It doesn't give you energy. So if you're already in a depleted state, which pretty much 9 out of 10 Americans are in that state, 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically sick, for example, then these beatdown workouts will just run your body and central nervous system into the ground even more. You got to be in a surplus of energy to work out properly. You can't be in a deficit. It might give you like a dopamine high initially, but you will feel more haggard and fatigued, and the muscle will look much more flat, et cetera, if you work out in an exhausted state. And pretty much almost everyone is in that exhausted state these days. They may not think so because they've been in it for so long, and maybe their friends are even more exhausted. But most people are running on fairly high levels of adrenal fatigue, just as a default kind of factory setting mode for how they live their life. So again, with group training, you got to be super careful in the sense that you got to ask, like, am I really meeting the problem at the level of the problem? And no, high intensity workouts are not needed to achieve your goals, and oftentimes are not at all beneficial. They just increase the chance of injury. They increase the amount of wear and tear on your central nervous system, et cetera, et cetera. So they're not needed at all. And I've never done any high intensity pretty much training with any of my clients, and have like many, many successful testimonials from clients from their 20s all the way through to their 70s, incentivizing them to not especially do high intensity training. So, okay. A lot of times too, although it may sound appealing, if you hear anyone stating things in the absolute, like you must eat this way, you must work out this way, etc., etc. There are no absolutes when it comes to mental or physical health at all. And basically, like for example, like with a short example with the weight loss here. So a lot of times people are like, oh, like if you weigh this much, you need to be eating this much to lose this much weight. So again, no, there may be some general ideas that you can follow. They'll get you to guess closer to the number you need to do. But basically, like what I do, for example, with my clients is I tell them to take their weight first thing in the morning on an empty stomach every day. Not only does this help them be more consciously aware of their weight goal first thing in the morning, but also it makes them more consciously aware of their decisions throughout their day and how they impact their weight and how that impacts their weight. And on top of that, it gives them very good objective feedback on how their decisions impact their weight. But more importantly, in terms of our discussion here, it gives you the data needed to determine how a specific set of calories impacts your weight. So let's say you have a 200-pound male, just to make it simple, they need 2,000 calories to lose weight. Okay, well, this other 200-pound male may need 1,800 calories to lose weight. And the easiest way to determine that is just to keep detailed analytics and start correlating, like, hey, when I eat this much, I lose weight. When I don't eat this much, I don't lose weight. It's easy to do that with pretty much everything. Like, for example, constipation. You can determine, like, just keep detailed records of how many total grams of fiber you have per day. And that will help you stay very regular. Let's say, like, one day you wrote, to simplify it, I ate 4 carrots and 2 bananas today. And that didn't work. But the next day, or a few days later, I ate 5 carrots, 2 bananas, and like a couple of blueberries, and I'm very regular then. Okay, then just kind of continue to do that. More importantly, determine the total amount of fiber present in that, and then learn to vary your fiber sources as well, both soluble and insoluble. And usually the general rule is you want like 15 to 20 or more sources of fiber per week. So like, for example, if you buy a bag of carrots, colored bag of carrots, and you have 5 different colors in there. So that's like 5, I would consider that 5 different sources of fiber just right there, okay? So no absolutes. If anyone is saying you need to eat like a vegetarian diet, or you need to eat a carnivore diet, and this is it, that is great for marketing, because in order to go viral, you need to have your message be simple, stupid for the masses to understand. There's a great book that I always quote, George Orwell's Animal Farm, to get the sheep, quote unquote sheep, to follow the pigs in the movie. I forgot their exact names, but they made a slogan: 2 legs bad, 4 legs good. So you got to dumb it down for the masses. So if you find that a person is stating things in the absolutes, there's tremendous amount of bias there, and it'll lead you astray long term, because there are no absolutes. Everything needs to be customized to the specific individual, and that is it. Unless you do that, you are literally relying on dumb luck, and that is never going to work long term, if it works at all. So another thing to consider is there are a lot of like quote unquote data driven influencers, and if they've actually done any of their own kind of research. I've had a chance to do a little bit of research myself at the University of California when I was there. They'll find out like how biased or how easy it is to manipulate research when it's needed, and that a lot of the research is funded by industry. And a lot of times it's just, you have to kind of massage the numbers, let's just say, to get the product to look more favorable, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of the studies you can find on PubMed.gov, you have to kind of read with a grain of salt as well. And just because they have some kind of statistical significance in the laboratory doesn't mean they have any clinical significance either. So there's that obstacle too. So a lot of these data-driven researchers, they they typically, their strategy is to typically use a lot of word salads, like make themselves sound extremely intelligent by making you more confused, by using a lot of industry lingo to kind of get lost in the weeds of fancy words. And you're like, oh, this guy sounds like really, really smart. They're usually flaunting credentials. They're like, oh, some Ivy League researcher, et cetera, et cetera. And here I'm going to present a bunch of data, but have pretty much no successful client testimonials to show that any of this works. But I'm just going to sound really smart and intelligent here. And typically they do a product plug-in at the end. So it's usually a supplement and stuff of that sort. So that's already kind of like a red flag. And a lot of supplements, pretty much all supplements are pretty much straight up bogus. Like they literally don't do anything. And in my opinion, I don't have like pretty much any of my clients using any supplements. And they're making great transformations. And remember, humans somehow thrived without like vitamin C isolates or any isolated vitamins and minerals or whatever for forever, with amazing health by just eating basically wild game, wild fish, et cetera, all that stuff. So just be careful there. And the eighth thing that I want to cover, and it's quite important, is I always encourage everyone to become their own mechanic. Even if you end up hiring someone, I would still become your own mechanic to a degree. At least for me, it's probably biased, but like mental and physical health is interesting to always learn about, too. But by becoming your own mechanic, you learn those little intricate details that basically you will only know about yourself. And that would allow you to problem solve around your health issues just a little bit better with the facilitation of like a mentor. Oftentimes, it's going to be tough to change like a chronic health issue yourself on your own, because inevitably, most often, there's like a belief system that led to certain repetitive behavior patterns that led to health issue ABC. And it's tough to solve a problem with a belief system that also led to that exact problem. So that's why getting a third party in with another belief system that has maybe accomplished what you're trying to accomplish and has accomplished it with many other people, that's important. The many other people part, getting that belief system in there can help saturate whatever is causing your health issues and return you back to a road of physical and mental health. So, but I do encourage people to become their own mechanic, but this means not relying on like watching TikTok reels or Instagram reels for your health advice, okay? Pretty much all of the popular health influencers on social media that have a large following, pretty much all of them are addicted to medical drugs or anabolic steroids or stuff of that sort. And they're just sick people, can't make healthy decisions. And although they look maybe fit and stuff of that sort, it's just maintained by pharmaceutical drugs, So I would just be careful with following a lot of the advice online, because it's bogus advice. And I did a podcast with Paul Chek on this. I forgot the exact episode, but I'm pretty sure if you type in Google Eugene Trufkin and Paul Chek, sick healthcare professionals or something like that, you'll be able to find it. And he's been in the industry for like 40 years, so much longer than I have. And he talks about his experience with that. But by becoming your own mechanic, like one thing to do is, start reading 2 to 3 books a month on the subject. And that'll help you understand industry lingo a little bit better, and you get a more clear picture on what you need to be focused on. There are many online courses you can take as well. You do not need any credentials, okay? That could help add a lot more clarity too. And then once you kind of get a general idea of, what's going on in that industry, then maybe you could reach out and get a mentor and stuff of that sort. So definitely work on becoming your own mechanic, but just know, like, watching TikTok reels or getting quick random workouts from YouTube, even from a popular person, isn't going to help you long-term at all, because even with program design, usually how they're done is they're done in quarterly blocks, so 4-month intervals, and each month builds off the previous month, allowing for enough biological adaptation and enough progressive overload to keep you from hitting plateaus. But when you get like one random workout for 4 weeks on YouTube and then another random workout, It's kind of like, for example, you're learning like German for 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden now you're transitioning to like Spanish, and now you're transitioning to like Chinese for 4 weeks. And of course, you're never going to get good, right? There's only like so big your muscle is going to be pumping out like 20-pound dumbbells. So that's another thing to consider that a lot of people probably fall victim to, trying to kind of save money by going that route, but really it's just wasting their time oftentimes. And then again, when you're listening to influencers online, even if they happen to be extremely competent, they never met you personally. So how could they possibly know your intricate details, that you have low back pain, that you're 30 pounds overweight, that you have like a stressful job or maybe a kid, or maybe some at-home issue that's leading to specific maladaptive behaviors that's leading to weight loss? Taking advice from people online is basically the equivalent of like you go to a doctor's office and without even talking to you at all, they just give you some medication without knowing your situation. That would be kind of weird, right? Everyone would agree and probably walk out of the office, but yet they always just take people's advice online the same exact way. And that's why they don't get anywhere. They might see some short-term results, maybe some negative results oftentimes, and that's it. And that's how it goes. So I hope this quick checklist allows you to make the best decision for yourself in 2025. That way you don't waste a lot of money and a lot of time hiring professionals on like false hope kind of promises and stuff of that sort. So which I would recommend you definitely hire mentors. They can definitely fast track whatever you're trying to accomplish. If you find the right one, it's such a huge life upgrade in whatever you're trying to accomplish, whether it's business, physical health, mental health, spiritual health, whatever. But you could use this checklist as a rough kind of blueprint on what to look for when trying to find a competent person. Okay, that would really genuinely help you. So I hope this helps. And this is going to be the last live for obviously the year. And obviously, if I don't see you guys or chat with you then, I just want to wish you the best New Year's. Just have a great time. And obviously, the best of luck next year as well. So wishing everyone well. Have a good weekend, everyone.